Okay, hey everybody. So I just wanted to walk you through a few things about the new movement here. I know I've just sort of like released this all at once. It's sort of I was building up for a while and just kind of came tumbling out. So I just wanted to show you a few things that are going on with this, so you can have a little more understanding of how this is all working and all that. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and reduce the size of my own self. Put myself down in the corner. Okay. So here is the here's the Mac or the Cubase project that I'm working with. So you can see all the stuff here. I've got Vibes and Bowen and Jane and Bode stuff here. So about that, actually, one of the things that I wanted to mention is the source material for this movement. What I'm actually doing is I'm convolving a Bode piano with this sort of babbling Jane, like sped up recordings of the operator Jane Barbie, as well as trunk noise, like telephone noise, from a recording that sort of inspired this movement. And the result is a very pure sort of sound that has this grit kind of texture to it that I really like. And I think it's really nice in combination with the Bode vibes, because there's also, you can hear the bow noise with vibes quite a bit. And that's one of the things I really like about that sound. I've always been a big fan of Bode vibes, just the sound of that, because it's a very pure sound, but there's always this underlying kind of grit to it that I really like. So that's what I'm going for with this. And for those of you who don't know about convolution, like convolving is basically a way to, hey, my video is now on video. Sorry, you guys get to see how my emails come in. But it's a way of mutating a couple of sounds together. So you could take Bode piano sound, like recording of a Bode piano, and recording of like trunk noise or of Jane, sort of babbling away that I've already altered, and then take the two and basically like mate the two sounds, and then they create something else that's kind of a combination of the two. Oftentimes it's kind of an unpredictable effect. But you know, trying that out many different ways, I come up with something that that I think works pretty well. So I wanted to go for something that was a very pure sort of sound, but had this underlying kind of grittiness to it all the time. So I think that hopefully that comes across in this piece. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and get into the vibes part, because of the fact that sound, the electronic sounds in this are so similar to Bode vibes themselves. I think it's worthwhile me just sort of pointing out some of this first. So I'm going to open this up here. So I will even cover up my own face so we can see all of this. Oh, hold on there. Whoa there. Okay. So what we have here basically is it's quite simple, and you can see the time display down here, so you can get an idea of the scale of all this. This is the entire vibes part. So all of this here is the Bode vibes part. This is the little bit of actually struck vibes. So I still have some things I need to do with this, like refine the part basically. But as you can see, like with the Bode vibes, well, I am with the struck vibes, it's actually pretty simple. So we go over here, let's say to this point. This is almost 3 minutes into the piece, and it's really like these are all the notes that are going on. Like there aren't even very often notes that are happening simultaneously. So it's a very sparse part. And then once we get over here, again, this looks like it's a bunch of notes happening all at once, but really we're at 323 here, and the end of this little section is at 407. So it takes 30 seconds for this to go by. You know, this, I initially planned this to be the shortest of all the four movements. At least just in my mind, it seemed like it would end up being that way. I thought it'd be maybe 3 minutes long, and it's turned out to be like 5:40 something. So it's actually the longest of the four movements, but it's pretty sparse and it's pretty slow going. So, and as you can see with the vibes part here, there are a lot of sections where it's just like one note that's bowed for a while and then released, and then something else happens. But the thing that I'm really looking for with all this is kind of the interaction between the electronics and the vibes. And I'm really playing around with this idea of bending pitch. And I do that a lot in the electronics. It also happens in the vibes. But the idea is that I like, well, a lot of you have probably played in gamelan before, right? I played in gamelan for a couple of years in, it was a Balinese gamelan ensemble in University of Colorado, and it was just an awesome experience in lots of ways. But one of the things I thought was really interesting was their take on tuning, because it's intentionally, you have these male and female like pairs of instruments, and they're intentionally slightly out of tune with each other because you get this beating effect, and it adds this sort of brilliance to the sound. And I'm kind of shooting for a similar sort of approach here, in that I like that there are a couple of pitches that are really close to each other but not quite there, and they're always there's a little bit of variation there, and you get this sort of shimmer to the sound that you wouldn't otherwise if it were all just like straight up equal tempered kind of stuff. So that's what I'm shooting for with this. As far as extended techniques go, you can hear pretty obviously right at the beginning that there is a pitch bend right here, and I've posted a few questions in the last post about this, and one of the things I'm curious about is how much control you have over pitch bends in a given period of time. Like, how smooth can that be, and also, like, is the range to which you can bend the pitch determined by the register that you're in? Those kinds of things I'm not quite sure about. So in a lot of this, I think it'll still work, even if it doesn't end up coming out quite as I have it in the mock-up. I think it'll still work just fine. The main thing is this sort of idea of like departure and arrival from a given pitch, and of course the given pitches that the bars are already like built to produce are going to be there, and that's what this really relies on. But then there's some deviation from that with this pitch bending. That's what I'm kind of shooting for with that. Let's see, get out my handy list here. Let's see, source material. Well, I have to tweak some things in this, in the electronics and the vibes too. For instance, like all of this stuff here is got to be pedal down. It doesn't need to be any given length like this. It's not totally a mess right now, but I just need to like adjust that so that it's as clear as as it can be. And of course, I need to like actually write the score out. Right now, it's in piano roll, which is handy for mock-ups, but you guys don't want to play from piano roll. I actually have to write some notes on the page, so I have to do that as well. But that actually shouldn't take too much time. Really, I mean, this is so simple and straightforward. It shouldn't be too much of an issue. The other thing that I'm doing in here, as far as extended techniques go, is harmonics, and it's just in a couple of spots. But for instance, this first pitch that you have this is actually comes out as a C because this is pitch bending up. You can see over here, so that you're on the C bar, and this will be clear in the notation. But this is actually a harmonic above that. So what I'm thinking basically is that the pitch bend goes up, so it starts out with weight, like on the center of the bar with the hard mallet, and then bowing, moving up, so the pitch bends up to its natural pitch, and then touching for the harmonic. So I'm assuming touch the middle node to get two octaves above. I'm pretty sure that's how it works, right? The middle of the bar would give you 2 octaves above, and then a third of the way would probably give you what, like 2 octaves in a, what would that be? I don't even know for sure, but yeah, so 2 octaves above for the middle node, I'm pretty sure. You guys correct me if I'm wrong about that. But anyway, so it's basically a matter of like pitch bend while you're bowing, and then continue bowing and touch the node, and then you get the harmonic above. And in my conversations with Thad a while back, I thought it was really interesting that just touching that harmonic, and then if you keep bowing, it's always going to produce that harmonic. It won't go back to the fundamental unless you dampen the bar and then start again. So it's pretty fascinating. But that happens at the beginning of the piece here. And then also right at the end, I have like a high E at the very end, and I'd actually like to have this like a touch the harmonic halfway through that, so that we end up with this really super high kind of ethereal thing, which matches the very high bowed piano, babbly, grainy stuff that's in there. Yeah, I guess that's it for that. I'm really curious about pitch bends, about how fluid those can be, and how feasible this sort of stuff is. And again, it doesn't have to be exactly the way it sounds in the mock-up, but I'm just curious about, like, is it always going to be? I'm just assuming a half step, but it seems to me that it might actually differ according to the length of the bar. You might actually be able to bend more if the bar is longer because the weight might make more difference. I don't really know for sure. So just let me know what you guys think about that. As far as the programmatic inspiration for this, I will make a separate post about that a little later. But basically, Panorama, Virginia, I don't even know if that's exactly a town, but I found an old recording. Well, that's from the 70s again. I'll need to look up the date. Um, but this is in the Shenandoah National Park in Virginia, and there's a spot in the park on like one of the roads that goes through the parks where there's a little restaurant, and they have a phone, and it's a pay phone, but you don't put change into it. You have to call the operator, and she connects you with wherever it is that you need to go because it's the only phone in its area code basically. It's a little weird because it's like right on the border of all these different area codes, so you have no choice but to dial long distance. In order to call anywhere, it has to be long distance. There are no local calls to make. So I'll post. There's a nice little recording with an explanation of that that I found. I'll post that later so you can hear more about it. But one of the things that I was really shooting for with this is to this idea of this sort of expanse all around you. So for me, it's like here in Porto, if I go to the ocean, it's just right over here. So if I go look out at the ocean, there's this sort of sense of scale that you get from that you don't quite get if you're in a city or if you're in if you're in I don't know, like a hilly area or something like that. Looking out on, let's say, the Great Plains in Kansas or Nebraska or Oklahoma, there's just this sort of sense of how small you actually are and how big everything is around you that I always find really fascinating. So that's kind of what I was going for with this, something where there's some tension in there, but there's a lot of just there's sort of a sense of relief in a way, just looking out and seeing nothing but just hills, and as far as you can see, it's just green. There isn't like signs of civilization necessarily around you, just in this little area where there's a few people in this one little place, and otherwise all around you it's just this expanse. Anyway, so that's kind of what I was going for with this. But again, I'll post more about that later, especially once I sort of collect my thoughts on all of that. But I wanted to go ahead and give you a chance to take a look at this now so you could see kind of how the vibes fit into this. So once you see the part, it'll make a lot of sense as well, but it's actually pretty sparse. A lot of the things that sound like bode vibes are actually produced electronically. There's a nice mix between the two, so it's really hard to discern between what's doing what, and that's kind of one of the things I'm going for. Anyway, so I guess that's everything I wanted to walk through now, and I'm sure you are probably bored of me rambling on about all of this, so I'll hang it up. But look for a post pretty soon, probably tomorrow, with a little bit more about this, and hopefully I'll have that score done very soon. So I have to do that. I have to clean some things up in the part here. I mean, this is the electronics are like pretty much what I'm going for, but I need to refine things a little bit. There's that the part, and then also the patch, the Max MSP patch. So that'll be pretty straightforward. I've actually already built it in to receive this movement. So I mean, basically, I just have to put the audio file in the right place, and then adjust the rehearsal marks, and probably tweak a few other things with that. But that'd be pretty easy to do. But I'm traveling again on Saturday, and I've got one of my flights is 12 hours long, so I'll have lots of time to do all of that stuff and play solitaire or whatever it is I'm going to do for that whole time. So I'll have plenty of time to get all that stuff done. I'd like to get the score done even earlier if possible, so I can get that to you. I know that Tim's got the premiere of both the vibraphone movements coming up on May 7th, so I want to get this stuff to him as soon as possible. Anyway, okay, so that's it for now. I keep stalling here, but no, really, I'm going to hang up. Really. Nope, really. Yeah.